Every month, the mobile space is full of new games. GameRanks always sorts through them to try to get you the best. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanks, the 10 best iOS and Android games of August 2019. Coming in at number 10, it's Dawn of Zombies: Survival After the Last War, which is an isometric perspective survival game, as you might have guessed by the title, which is currently in early access, so there is some refinement to be done. But overall, it's a fun and interesting title. It is a little bit more quote-unquote real game-ish than some mobile survival games. You get a lot more into stuff that you might expect in a larger scale production, which is nice. You build a living space both under and above ground. You get vehicles, you use stealth, and I will say sometimes the stealth feels a little bit rudimentary, but again, we're in an early phase of the game, and overall, there's so much to do. I feel like if any one thing at the moment isn't dynamite, the fact that overall the package sort of comes together very well kind of makes up for it. As far as features that are coming, they're promising free-for-all PvP and co-op PvE, and overall it's a game that I would say has way more depth than we could possibly cover in a minute. Give it a shot. It's called Dawn of Zombies: Survival After the Last War. It's out on both iOS and Android now, in early access. Moving on to number 9, it's Gundam Battle Gunpla Warfare, which I will warn some phones experience a fair amount of crashing, but for the most part, I didn't have any issues. It's an action game in which you customize a mech and then go fight basically everything. The goal is to defeat other players playing the game and collect various items to upgrade your mech. Now, it does have an original story, and they tout that as though it's a big feature, but I would overall say it's not going to affect your experience a lot. It's not really a particularly unique story, but the gameplay itself, if it works on your phone, is quite a bit of fun. I would suggest that as this game gets fixed, there will be more and more people that enjoy it. Gundam Battle Gunpla Warfare is out on both iOS and Android right now. Moving on to number 8, it's Dead Zed, which is sort of an update on the old Flash game of the same name. It's basically a first-person stationary shooter in which hordes of zombies are walking towards you, and you need to shoot them before they get to you. Basically, as you play the game, you'll unlock more weapons, you'll unlock more locations, and the beauty of it is actually the simplicity of it. It might seem as though there's not a lot going on here, but it's a game that is deceptive in how simple it looks. I find this game incredibly fun. I think it was really worth the play, not just for the nostalgia factor if you played the game a few years ago. And on that note, given the fact that Adobe Flash is going away soon, it's nice that there's a way to play this game somewhere else. Dead Zed is available on iOS and Android right now. Moving on to number 7, it's Mighty Heroes, a player versus player card game, which I'm going to go ahead and say that the recent trend of more straightforward card games appearing in the mobile space is actually pretty good. Generally, I'm finding that these games are fun, and even though the graphics are often limited, they tend to make up for it in just being good involving games. This one is no exception, although it does manage to up the ante as far as animations go a little bit. Now, cards obviously don't do a lot on their own, but in this game, they glow, they spin, they do various things that I think do help keep the game both visually interesting and satisfying. Basically, I wouldn't call the rules if this game massively deviating from the norm as far as these types of card games go, so if you understand card games, you'll probably get this. However, I would argue that it's the variety of cards and cohesiveness of experience that I think really makes this one a good one. Mighty Heroes is out on iOS and Android right now. I think you should give it a shot if you're interested in card games. And coming in at number 6, Total Party Kill is a dungeon puzzle platformer in which you have to sacrifice 2 of your teammates in order to solve the puzzle. You control a team of 3, and the overall goal is to find a way to get somebody to the door at the end of the level. That means freezing people into ice blocks, shooting them to the wall with an arrow to use them as a platform themselves, slashing them and throwing them into a button. Honestly, it's a really cool concept, and I don't have a lot to say other than it's really worth your time. If you think what I've described here sounds cool, it absolutely is. Total Party Kill is a phenomenal game out on both iOS and Android right now. And at number 5, we have the creator, which I'm going to go ahead and call Journey combined with Flappy Bird. Yeah, that sounds weird, doesn't it? So it's basically a tap platformer in the vein of Flappy Bird. However, it's gorgeous, it's zen-like, it's pastel, and it's definitely not Flappy Bird. The mechanics are not a lot more complex. You're still basically tapping to jump or go higher or whatever an energy ball does, but now you're not avoiding pipes, you're collecting energy. And if you don't collect it, it turns into a dark energy that follows you, I guess. And you don't want to get caught, and that's the game. There's also a Zen mode. Either mode is actually a lot of fun. You would be shocked at how fun this is. It's also very relaxing, at least until a dark energy gets right on your tail and then it stops being relaxing. I really enjoy it, actually. Coming in at number 4 is Garena Speed Drifters, which is a kart racer that actually manages to stand out, despite the fact I have really no idea who any of these characters are, or if they're characters in something other than a Garena game. Garena, by the way, is the developer who has done much more in-depth racing games of a similar aesthetic in China, but playing this game with other people is probably the most fun to do. It is a bit grindy, so don't expect to get competitive quickly, but playing with a friend is a lot of fun. It also has the goofiest, most unnecessary story possible, and I would just highly recommend that. It is not what I would call a good story, but it is so much fun. It's so silly and over the top. Garena Speed Drifters is out on iOS and Android now. Moving on to number 3, it's Gears Pop, which, yes, is a game based on the Funko Pop Gears of War figurines. It manages to take the sort of cover and shoot mechanics and turn it into a completely different type of game. Basically, if you've ever thought, hey, cover mechanics would be good in Clash Royale, yeah, they actually are. I don't know how or why they decided to make this game, but it works, and it's fun. I've described exactly what it is to you in saying Clash Royale with cover mechanics. And honestly, it's kind of a miracle that it's enjoyable, but it is enjoyable, and you should give it a shot. Gears Pop is out on both iOS and Android now. Moving on to number 2, it's Pokemon Masters, which is a surprisingly simple Pokemon battler. It's not going to blow your mind in any way. If you're familiar with social RPGs, you're pretty much understanding what you're getting here. However, it's Pokemon, and with Pokemon comes a few new options that make it more interesting than if it was just any old social RPG. It's also beautiful, like it really is a pretty version of this kind of game, and it's particularly fun to play with multiple people as a co-op. Pokemon Masters is out on iOS and Android now. I would highly recommend giving it a shot. And finally, coming in at number 1 is Elune, which is again the same kind of gacha social RPG type fare. However, I would say it offers a unique spin in that it feels much more cohesive than a lot of those types of games. Maybe a little bit more beefy, so to speak, but I will say mechanically speaking, there's not a lot of new stuff, and there's some obnoxious things behind a paywall, a big paywall. That said, I would say if you're looking for this type of a game, this is a more than fine example of it. I would call it a high-end example of it, perhaps. It's not without its problems, but that hardly condemns it, given most of these games are like that. Elune is out on iOS and Android now. Couple of bonus games for you. We have a hell of a bonus section for you. Obviously, the paid games market has slowed way down, and in some respects, I'm going to say that's been highly beneficial because we're getting games like Dead Cells, which is now out on iOS and will be coming to Android soon. Priced at $7.99, Dead Cells is a phenomenal game that I played on the Switch. I'm stoked it's out on phones because I think it deserves every bit of attention it can get. It's just an amazing procedurally generated Metroidvania, but with levels type game, and I've wasted so much time on it, you need to play it. It's $7.99, hopefully it'll hit Android pretty soon. And then not only do we have Dead Cells, now we also have Journey on mobile. It's only out on iOS currently, but it's Journey. Journey is amazing. Journey is one of my favorite short experiences, and when I described the creator as Journey meets Flappy Bird, I did it with a lot of reverence for actually both of those games. Journey is one of my favorites. It's simple, it's beautiful, and it's emotional. It's also $4.99 on iOS now. And as if to say, hey, 3 of your favorite indie games should come out on mobile this month, Hyper Light Drifter hit iOS. Hyper Light Drifter is, of course, a game that Diablo and Zelda fans alike will enjoy very deeply. Beautiful game, beautiful music, probably some of the prettiest pixel art in existence, and fun as hell for $5.99 on iOS. And finally, Stranger Things 3, the game, which is out on both iOS and Android. This time around, they made Stranger Things a pay game. The previous Stranger Things was free, as it kind of was an advertisement for the show, but I think nobody doesn't know about the show that's gonna watch the show at this point, so they figured let's make a game that people will actually want to pay for out of this, and it actually works out pretty well. It's a top-down isometric adventure game. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. It's $4.99 on iOS and Android now. What games did you play this month? Leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and if you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.